Well, hey there, friends, and welcome to this special Nevada Sportsnet presentation. Alongside Chris Murray, I'm Mike Stephenson, and this is your 2025 Mountain West Men's Basketball Tournament Preview Show, brought to you by your Northern Nevada Toyota dealers. As we get set, Chris, for 4 days of that action inside the Thomas & Mack Center, an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament, and of course, a trophy and a Mountain West championship on the line. As we quickly talk about last year, Chris, a banner year for the Mountain West Conference, 6 teams to the NCAA tournament. Maybe too much to ask for this year, but nonetheless, a lot of intrigue with this bracket.
And you go back to last year, the reason there were 6 teams is because New Mexico won 4 games in 4 days out of that first round to clinch the automatic berth. That's something Nevada's going to try this season. Going into this year's tournament, you've got New Mexico and Utah State. I think they're locks in the NCAA tournament. No other team in the Mountain West a lock, though. So you have 9 other schools fighting for that automatic berth.
We're going to preview the heck out of this tournament starting right now as we head over to your bracket. We are migrating as we get a look at what's going to be an intriguing few days of basketball. We will lean in heavily on Nevada here in just a few moments. But Chris, let's talk about these first round matchups. The tournament tips off, and we should note first round games all live on Nevada Sportsnet. Things start with San Jose State and Wyoming in the 8-9 game.
San Jose State just 1 win in the Mountain West tournament in its history. A lot of people, Wolfpack fans, remember 2023 against Nevada, but did win the season series against Wyoming, won both of those games, the sweep on the road to start and then at home. So Spartans a little bit more dangerous than usual, and they'll try and get past that first round game to play number 1 seed New Mexico.
Again, we're going to dive deeper on Nevada and Fresno State's first round matchup, but that'll be the 1:30 game, and frankly, the Pac loves to see the Bulldogs in its first game.
Yeah, I mean, Fresno State Air Force really struggled in Mountain West season, but Fresno State did take Nevada to overtime in the game at the Save Mart Center in Fresno before Nevada beat the Bulldogs by 25 points in the rematch. Nevada should roll in that game, but you never know when it comes to the Mountain West tournament.
And day 1 will be wrapped up by the host team, if you will, UNLV taking on Air Force. Might the Falcons have a trick up their sleeve?
Probably not. The Falcons lost both of its games to UNLV by 20-plus points, just 1 conference win during the regular season. So a long haul for the Falcons to be able to win that game.
Of course, when you talk about the regular season, the team that finished at the top, the New Mexico Lobos, first regular season Mountain West title since the 2012-2013 season when Steve Alford was the head coach. Now it's Richard Pitino in town, and as well as the Mountain West Player of the Year, Donovan Dent. This was an intriguing race. It came down to the last week of play, Chris, but just 3 Mountain West losses to the Lobos named this season rightful champions.
So after that game, you talked with Richard Pitino, and he told you he didn't want to share the Mountain West title. He was talking about the regular season. They went on and clinched the overall championship. They probably don't want to share the Mountain West tournament title either. They've actually won the last 2 Mountain West titles because they won last year's tournament and this regular season title. A fantastic season for the Lobos. The best player in the tournament in Donovan Dent, and some really good supporting cast players as well. They're already in the NCAA tournament, but if they're able to win this one, maybe they get up to a 6 or 7 seed, and seeding is really important when you get to the big dance.
Especially out of the Mountain West. Lots to play for. 25-6 overall, 17-3 within conference play. Here is Richard Pitino and his star player after the big win they had in Reno.
I wanted them to believe. I mean, obviously, going into the season, you lose JT, you lose Mash to the portal, you lose House, obviously a Lobo great to graduation. So to get some new faces in here, to get some quality wins in the non-conference, and to start the way that we did, to go 8 wins in a row, then lose 2 tough ones, and then bounce back to finish strong. So very, very gratifying, proud of my staff, proud of the players, everybody. I mean, they did an amazing job, and you know, we'll enjoy it tonight, but we got a lot of season left to play.
We're going with the same mindset we had last year. We had to win 4 games, 4 days. We're having the same mindset. We don't care about the first round bye. We don't care whether we want to win it all again.
I appreciate Donovan giving me a little insight to their Mountain West tournament feelings because they still had another regular season game before getting to the tournament, so appreciate them for that time. So they'll get the winner of that first game, San Jose State and Wyoming, New Mexico, straight into the quarterfinals. As we now dive into a few different storylines, Chris, first we're going to start with the team or teams that have the most to lose this week, and we're really looking at what's a yummy matchup in the 4-5 game, San Diego State, Boise State.
Yeah, I think whoever loses that game is not headed to the NCAA tournament. San Diego State's been to 4 straight NCAA tournaments. Boise State's been to 3 straight NCAA tournaments. Both of them are on the bubble. Boise State probably out of the field, first 4 out. San Diego probably one of the last 4 in. So can the Aztecs wrap up a spot by winning the quarterfinal matchup? Boise State probably feels like it needs to win 2 games. So the most to lose. One of these teams is going to lose that game and probably be headed to the NIT. So that is a huge matchup coming on Thursday.
That's a heck of a quarterfinal game. Should let you guys know we're going to have our predictions at the end of the show. Chris, who would you say has the most favorable path to a championship?
Yeah, if you look at Colorado State right here on the bottom, those other teams on the bottom part of the bracket, Colorado State went 9-1 against. Swept Nevada, swept Fresno State, swept UNLV, swept Air Force, 1-1 at Utah State, and the Rams are playing great basketball. They're playing the best of any team in the field, and now they're going to face all of these teams that they dominated during the regular season. So to me, Colorado State has the easiest path, but there's never an easy path to winning a conference tournament. You're always going to get the other team's best punch. I just think you look at current form and you look at history against these teams during the regular season, the Rams have probably the most favorable path to the championship.
Really quick, they finished really strong, but they got to win the whole thing to get in, right?
They could maybe sneak in an at-large if they get to the championship game and lose. They were completely left for dead at the at-large because they went 6-5 in non-conference, but they were 16-4 during the regular season in the Mountain West. So they are on the fringes, but they cannot feel comfortable. They feel like they need to win the tournament.
Okay. Your sleeper team, who might shock some folks this week in Vegas?
Well, I like UNLV. I think they get past Air Force, and then you look at the Utah State game. They split with the Aggies, and both those games are decided by 4 points or less. So I think that's a favorable matchup. They're playing really good defense, and they've beaten some of the better teams in this bracket. This is a team that swept San Diego State. They beat Utah State. You look at these first 4 first-round games. UNLV is the only one that's proven it can beat some of the better teams in the Mountain West. Now, we don't know if they're going to have point guard Didon Thomas Jr. He has missed the last 4 or 5 games with a shoulder injury. If they get him back, they might get that emotional lift. And they are playing at home. Hasn't helped recently, but I think that's a nice boost.
Technically not on the same floor as there is a new Mountain West court this year, sporting the conference's purple and more. We're going to get our hands on it, our feet on it, I should say, later this week as we cover the heck out of the Mountain West Conference tournament. We're doing it now, though, setting the table. Coming up next on our Mountain West Tournament preview show, we'll look a little closer at the home team Wolfpack. What does Nevada have to do to make a run in Las Vegas? All that and more coming up. Our Mountain West Tournament preview show rolls on, brought to you by your Northern Nevada Toyota dealers. He's Chris Murray. I'm Mike Stephenson, diving now specifically into the Nevada Wolfpack, which Chris was picked to finish 3rd in the regular season. Sure enough, the Silver and Blue ends up 7th after an 8-12 conference season, entering the tournament 16-15 overall. Frankly, a far cry from where virtually everyone expected this team to be. Chris, they started 4-0, took a 2-point loss to Vandy, ended up 6-1. That 0-4 start to conference play, though, really doomed them.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the beginning of non-conference play, and those high hopes were kind of validated, and this looked like a team that was going to reach a 3rd straight NCAA tournament. Obviously, it hasn't played out that way, and now they have this week to be able to go out there and maybe do something special, winning 4 games in 4 days. So what's befelled Nevada when it got to Mountain West play? Well, it's been a variety of things. Good teams find ways to win games. Bad teams find ways to lose games, and Nevada's found ways to lose games, whether it was late game execution, whether it was missing free throws. There was a run there where they were getting crushed on the backboard and they couldn't rebound. For me, the biggest thing, Nevada ranks last in the Mountain West in 3-point shooting and ranks last in the Mountain West in 3-point defense. It has been outscored by 156 points from beyond the arc in Mountain West games. It's hard to win when you're giving up basically plus 10 from the 3-point line. So Nevada shooters have to play well at this tournament. When they did play at UNLV at Thomas and Mack earlier this season, those shooters did not shoot very well. So hopefully it's not the venue, but the talent seems to be there for this team maybe to make a run, although less depth with Trey Coleman and Daniel Foster nursing injuries.
And those injuries hurt, especially on the defensive end. That 3-point stat is eye-popping. And of course, especially in today's day and age, the way basketball is played now, you got to find the line and you got to shoot behind and you got to do it well if you want to compete. So Nevada's going to have to see some long balls going at a higher clip than normal here at the Mountain West Conference Tournament. Before we hear from Coach Alford and talk a little bit more about the squad, I actually want to go back to the week of December 2nd. Washington State was inside Lawler Event Center, just gave it to Nevada. Then the Pack ends up going to lose at LMU later that week. It kind of felt like that was when there was a little crack in the armor.
Yeah, that was kind of the beginning of the end. I think after that Washington State game, I said, okay, well, maybe it's a 1-game anomaly. If it happens again, then you can be concerned. They went to a not very good LMU team, and they did not play well in that game. They lost. They came back, won a couple of non-conference home games against not very great competition, South Dakota State and and Texas Southern. But then they start Mountain West play 0-4. So now you're playing catch up the entire league season, and Nevada could just never get over the hump against good teams. The top 5 teams in the Mountain West, Nevada 0-10 against. It's probably going to have to beat 3 of those teams this week to win the Mountain West tournament. So does Nevada have that next level? It's going to have to show it this week because we haven't seen it. And really, we haven't seen a great team since that Washington State loss.
Of course, Nevada sort of has a 1A and a 1B when it comes to production on the team. Those players would be Nick Davidson and Kobe Sanders. We learned that they have been honored by the Mountain West Conference. Nick is a second-team All-Mountain West selection. Sanders ends up on the third team. Now, Kobe was the preseason newcomer of the year, did not get that honor. Ultimately, his stats weren't too bad. Same with Davidson, but those who watch this team night in and night out, a little bit more was expected.
Yeah, and I think the biggest issue is both these guys weren't getting going on the same game. It would seem like Nick would have a good game and Kobe wouldn't, or Kobe would have a good game and Nick wouldn't. And you need both of your great players to play well to beat the better teams in the Mountain West. You can't complain with what Nick Davidson gave you. He led the team in points, rebounds, blocks, steals, averaged 3 assists per game on top of that, shot 50% from the field, about 36% from 3. He gave you a lot of good stuff. Kobe Sanders, really good in non-conference, then went through a lull. Then he had that stretch where he was scoring 30 every single game. So a talented guy, especially from the mid-range, but can he upgrade that game in these big tournament stake situations?
Last time we heard from Steve Alford, it was following the Pac's regular season finale loss at San Diego State. Here he was setting the table for a huge week in Las Vegas.
You got to put 40 minutes together and you got to be able to close. And this just hasn't been a team that's had that ability to close. Last year we won all the close games. This year we've won about 1 out of 8 or 9, and that's not a good recipe for having a really good season. So obviously some disappointments during the regular season, and now we get a clean slate. Everybody's 0-0, and we get to go Wednesday at 1:30 against Fresno, and we got to put our best foot forward and believe we can do it. And like I told the guys in the locker room, I just want the guys that believe and can compete to get on that bus and playing with me. And if that's 5 guys, that's what it is. If it's 6, 7, if it's a whole team, that's great. But you got to want to go compete. You got to want to go try to win this thing. And hopefully we'll have a group of guys that want to do that.
So Nevada entering the Mountain West tournament winless against the top 5 teams in the league, but that does not include Fresno State. If you actually look at point differential in those final results, Chris, I think Nevada actually played its best against the Bulldogs this year. There is that old adage, it's tough to beat a team 3 times in one season, but this Fresno State team and Nevada team, there is a clear gap there.
Yeah, and Fresno State doesn't have its usual roster, so they went through a betting scandal in the middle of the Mountain West season where they lost 3 rostered players who were alleged to have bet on games they played in. Mikel Robinson, one of those players, his last game was the first game against Nevada, which the Wolfpack won in overtime at Fresno. Another player, Jalen Weaver, former Nevada player, said he bet the over on himself in a game against New Mexico. He did hit that over, so he got an extra $50. Probably not worth giving up your college career over. So. But that second matchup, Nevada won by 25, hit like 14 3-pointers. That was one of the games where Nevada hit a lot of 3-pointers. This game should not be close. If this game is close, that's not a great sign. If you're Nevada and you're going to win this thing, you got to win 4 games in 4 nights. Can you put Fresno State away with maybe 10 minutes to go?
Get some guys on the bench.
Use a little bit of your bench to try and conserve some of those legs. You can't take a win for granted. And Nevada has struggled at the Mountain West tournament. Under Steve Alford, just 2-5 in this event. But this should be an advancement for the Wolfpack before they would play Colorado State.
Have not won a game at the last 2 Mountain West Conference tournaments. Has Nevada a great opportunity to get a win, but having to play now in the first round this year. 7-10 matchup, 1:30. Again, we're going to have it live for you right here on Nevada Sportsnet, the Wolfpack and the Bulldogs. All right, coming up next, we continue setting the table for what should be a fun bracket of action in Sin City. We're identifying players to watch on all the contenders in the field. That's next. Your Mountain West men's basketball tournament preview show continues here inside our Nevada Sportsnet studio. Mike and Chris kicking it with you before the bracket kicks off down in Las Vegas. We're going to spotlight a handful of players, one on a few teams to watch down in Las Vegas, because this is the time of the year where the best players got to show out and kind of put the game in their hands. And we're going to start with the Mountain West champions from New Mexico and Donovan Dent. We saw glimpses of how great he could be last year on a loaded Lobos roster. The show was his this year, and boy, boy, did he show out. This is the kind of tournament that he's made for, right?
Yeah, more than 20 points and 6 rebounds per game in Mountain West play, and he was kind of like the fourth banana on last year's team. Coach Pitino mentioned this at the start of the show. You had Jalen House, who was the tournament MVP last year as the lead guard. Jamal Mashburn Jr., he transferred to Temple. JT Toppin, he was the Mountain West Freshman of the Year. He transferred to Texas Tech. He's an All-American this year. And Donovan Dent said, those 3 guys are leaving. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to be the star, and I'm going to lead us to a regular season title for the first time in 12 seasons. He was the best player in the Mountain West this season. He's a fantastic passer. He has NBA-level ball handling skills. He can shoot the 3. He can get to the free throw line. He is a very difficult player to stop, very creative as well. Really fun to watch play. Not as much pressure on New Mexico. I know they say they want to win this tournament. They don't have to get into the NCAA tournament, but I don't think this guy's going to let this team slack off. He doesn't have that kind of personality.
20 points, over 6 assists a game, and shot 50% from the field. A lot of emphasis on stopping Donovan Dent if you're the opposition. Same can be said for Colorado State's number 1, Nick Clifford, pound for pound. One of the best players in the country, if you ask me.
Yeah, he's a fantastic player, and the cool thing about Colorado State is it's a team. Nick Clifford is their best player. He did put up 36 points in the regular season finale win over Boise State, so he's capable of doing that. But he's not a guy who's like, I'm going to go get mine. They play team basketball. Nick Clifford is the best, for me, NBA prospect in the Mountain West this season, and they have just surged in Mountain West play because of Nick and how he's able to make everybody around him better. He's a fantastic player, and he's going to play in the league for a long time.
How about 18 points, nearly 10 rebounds a game, over 4 assists a game, and he shot 50% from the field. That is getting it done, and then some. San Diego State, I tell you what, Aztecs always a force to be reckoned with, maybe some slippage this year, but Nick Boyd is certainly a player to watch, and he's going to have to show out if SDSU wants to make a run.
And he's got tournament experience. At Florida State, he led them to the Final Four. He was actually the guy that Lamont Butler shot over to clinch that Final Four win between San Diego State and FAU. Ended up transferring to San Diego State. He's been really good the second half of the season. He has been a great playmaker. San Diego State can kind of struggle on offense. This guy can get to the rim. He can get to the point. He can distribute. He's a very good defender as well. So he's really emerged as their go-to guy in terms of making plays throughout the entire game, but especially late in games. Not a big guy, but very, very strong, very, very tough, and he's a winner.
Of course, Boise State fans feeling a little bittersweet as they see the career of Tyson Degenhart start to close. The preseason player of the year, another strong campaign, and if the Broncos want to make a run, a lot of it's going to start with number 2 and end with number 2.
Yeah, one of the best players in Mountain West history, and his goal this week is to make sure that he gets to go back to the NCAA tournament for all 4 seasons. He's been there the first 3 years. The Broncos probably need to win 2 games to make sure he's able to get back there as a senior. He's so versatile. He really is the heartbeat of that program for the last 4 years. You know, you don't root for anybody on this show, but it would be very poetic if he's able to go to the NCAA tournament all 4 years. Not a lot of guys get to do that. We remember Nick Fazekas back at the Nevada days. When Nick Fazekas was on your team, you were in the NCAA tournament. Tyson Degenhart trying to prove the same with the Broncos.
We'll have to see what happens as we wrap things up with the Wolfpack, and we talked about him a little bit. Kobe Sanders, a lot was expected of him coming out of Cal Poly. It was a program that didn't win a lot when he was putting up huge numbers. Sure enough, we saw some glimpses of greatness from him, maybe a little bit more to be desired, but he has a chance to really end things strong at the Mountain West tournament.
Yeah, he's the X factor. If Nevada is going to win this tournament, he needs to play like an MVP of the tournament. Scoring about the same in Nevada's wins and losses this year, right around 15 points per game. In those wins, he's shooting 10% better from the field and 14% better from 3. This guy's 6'9", and he loves the mid-range. He likes to shoot from 15 feet and further out, which is great when you're hitting those shots. It's not really an en vogue shot in college basketball or even the NBA nowadays. He needs to go out there and play like he's capable, because when he does, Nevada's very, very talented. Well, the Wolfpack, one of only 2 teams in the one of 5 teams in the Mountain West with 2 All-Mountain West players. So it's got the talent to get the job done, but that talent has to play at a high level, and that starts with Kobe Sanders. I kind of feel like we know what we're going to get out of Nick Davidson. Yeah. But Kobe Sanders has been a little bit more of a wild card from one game to the next.
And you touched on it. The leash has been a little looser of late. It feels like he's getting more shots up and maybe feeling more comfortable. And that mid-range game can be lethal when he's on. I mean, he's a top 3 player in the league as far as I'm concerned, having watched a lot of their games this year, but we've only seen that few and far between, that version of Kobe Sanders. He's going to have to be on point down in Las Vegas. Nearly time to play ball as we wrap things up here on our Mountain West Tournament Preview Show. One thing left to do. What do these guys think that's going to happen down in Las Vegas? Our predictions and also Mountain West Awards next. Ahead of tournament play, your Mountain West regular season awards have been announced. As we talked about, the player of the year is Donovan Dent. The coach of the year, New Mexico's leader as well, Richard Pitino. Defensive player of the year, as well as freshman of the year, Magoon Guaf out of San Diego State. Newcomer, Wyoming's Obi Ogbim. And your sixth man, Javen Buchanan out of Boise State. Chris, you had a vote in this.
Yeah.
How did this shape up with yours?
I mean, pretty close. I had Justin McBride from Nevada as your sixth man of the year. Buchanan actually took an official recruiting visit to Nevada, but picked Boise State. Guaf is someone to watch out for. 7-foot center, a lot of NBA potential, can block shots and hit threes, but he did miss the last 4 or 5 games of the season with an injury. We don't know exactly what his status will be for this tournament.
All right, one thing left to do. Let's get to our predictions for the Mountain West Conference tournament, and let's get right to it, Chris. Who is your team that's going to win the whole thing?
I'm going Colorado State, so I'm taking the number 2 seed. They have won 8 straight games to end the regular season. They're playing fantastic basketball. I think the Rams actually get it done under Nico Medved, and they clinch that automatic berth. As we talked about, they probably need to at least get to the Mountain West Championship game, and that probably isn't good enough. They know that they got to go do something special if they're going to play in the big dance this week.
You said it, hottest team coming in. Hard to argue with that. I'm going to go with the low-hanging fruit. I'm going to say the Lobos make it a double championship this year. Now, there is an argument to be made that maybe you want to rest, but also I think there's an argument to be made that you want to get the best seed as possible. So go win 3 games in 3 days. I say New Mexico repeats as your tournament champ. Who's going to be the MVP if Colorado State gets it done?
So I'm going Nick Clifford. It's kind of the obvious pick there. I mean, he means so much to that team. He really has been able to flourish this year. He was kind of the Robin to Isaiah Stevens' Batman the last year at Colorado State, but I think he goes and gets it done, and he gets to host that trophy and gets the MVP.
We've seen enough video of my guy. I'll just tell you it's more chalk. Donovan Dent, your MVP of the Mountain West Conference Tournament. New Mexico again makes it back-to-back. At least that's what I'm thinking. Most fun here, though. Who's your dark horse pick that might surprise some folks?
So I think to qualify, you got to play in a first-round game. I'm picking Nevada.
Okay.
So much has gone wrong for the Wolfpack this season. I feel like something has to go right. We're running out of time for that to happen. And I do think this team is talented enough to at least get to the semifinals and make things interesting.
Well, my team is not in a first-round game, but I'm going to say San Diego State. You rarely, if ever, can count the Aztecs out when you get into March. How about Brian Dutcher with another trust fall as San Diego State cuts down the net in Las Vegas? We will have to see. One thing left to do, play ball. It's been a fun season, huh, friend?
Yeah, it's been great.
All right, let's cover the heck out of this tournament. For Chris Murray, I'm Mike Stephenson. Shout out to our guys upstairs. Enjoy hoops, friends.